We're well connected. Okay, cold weather in Israel, cold and damp. Today's the 26th of November. It's 9:24 in the morning. 52 degrees, high of 59. But I'm seeing a lot of sunshine until the afternoon. And I'm not seeing rain for days ahead and quite a while, at least a week. So that's not going to be that bad. Okay, so I'm going to go into the live stream, moving, make sure we still got picture. And I'm going to put up, no, I'm not going to put up any posts. I'm just going to make sure we got sound and picture. I'm going to put up, I'll put my email up. For probably a temporary period of time, please don't use PayPal. I have Patreon and GoFundMe up there, okay? Please don't use PayPal until I tell you it's okay again. I have to do something with them. I don't think it's going to be that serious, but please don't use PayPal until I announce you can. I'm not going to be putting it up in the chat, and I'm not going to be putting it in the description box under the video. In the description box under the video, I have GoFundMe and Patreon. Okay, thank you. All right, I'll get my email address up and we'll get going. I fell asleep early last night and got up a little after 4 this morning. Well rested. I had a lot of sleep. Okay. It's so cold. All right, so that's that. And we'll probably have a good amount of people coming in today and probably have a lot of hecklers, so be advised. All right, so being a Bible-believing site, I'm going to do, please pray that my payment processor situation improves and doesn't deteriorate or anything like that. Right now, I don't think the problem is that serious. It's more or less administrative issue of supplying information or something like that. I don't know. Hang on a sec. Being a Bible-believing site, I'm going to do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. All right, so I'm gonna cover what's going on in Israel that you're not hearing about, regarding the Israelites, the rabbis, etc., building a temple. And I'm going to go through the Bible's prophecies on this with you later and see if this is actually lending itself to be the truth. And I don't think it is. I don't think it'll happen. But it's very important that you know this is going on because it's influencing the world in reality. And I'm going to cover this, and it's completely unexpected. You'll see. In the meantime, we need to talk about this Lebanon ceasefire. Okay, that's brewing here, and oh, we've seen so many of these with Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza. It's just incredible how much of this goes on. First of all, why would it be going on? Because America still has a problem with Iran and Russia and BRICS. And Iran are the two countries America can't mold or dictate to, that sell a good amount of oil and natural gas, and they wish to do it through BRICS, which takes them away from all the sanctions. Okay, they can beat the sanctions, is what I'm saying, by using the BRICS pay system, the digital currency, blockchain type, Bitcoin type thing. And they're very strict that the oil and the gas has to get paid this way without using any euros or US dollars, which will significantly reduce the demand for the US dollar. The UAE is in BRICS, so they'll be going along with it also. And Saudi Arabia is already saying they're not going to accept payment for months now in US dollars or euros. So they're diminishing the demand for the US dollar substantially. Okay. The son of the guy who owns Saudi Arabia, and I say this very pointedly, it's a family business to them. Saudi is the name for the Saud family in Arabia, so the name means it's the, let's say my name was Finkelstein, so it'd be like saying Finkelstein's Arabia, okay? So you understand that, all right? So to them it's a family business, that's all it is, you must understand that, okay? And they hoard the wealth, tremendous wealth. They have to be in the trillions, I would guess. And the son take over from the father, who's, I think he's still alive, but he's very old and very ill, so he's not doing much of anything. So the son has more radical ideas and notions to propel Saudi Arabia into the future. Of course, he's looking forward to a godless world, You need to understand that all the leaders of every country, I don't care what they are, is a Satan bot, or they wouldn't be there, okay? Satan's the god of this age, and the age is still continuing. Oh my, how do I wish it would be over already? You have no idea. I mean, you all may want to wish it was over already, but I don't know if you could wish it harder than me, but, maybe you can, but I really can't stand this anymore, but I'm stuck, The country's being attacked from all sides, not so much from the Mediterranean, but every other side, and it's very hard. So the ceasefire, Israel's been trying to pound Hezbollah for months, day and night, and they still haven't stopped it. 2 days ago, they launched 250 to 300 missiles in one day. That is very, very far from stopping it. Now, can Hezbollah maintain that day after day? This I don't know. Maybe they could. I don't know. 20 years of storing weapons and hiding them and everything is, really hard. So Netanyahu went on his typical campaign of targeted assassinations and destroying real estate, buildings, and bunkers, and underground facilities, and that kind of thing. Okay? Which I don't agree with as a valid war plan, but no other country ever seems to adapt to this, yet Netanyahu does, you know. All right, let's move along. So, Hochstein, who is a complete failure, never negotiated any ceasefire, yet Biden never fires him. Blinken never negotiated any ceasefire, and Biden never fired him. Now, does that tell you something? Does it perhaps tell you the reason that they never got fired is because they never were supposed to get a ceasefire? If they were supposed to and they couldn't, don't you think it would make sense that Biden would replace them? Think about it. Don't listen to their words only. You'll be very confused if you do. Yes, listen to their words, but also pay close attention to their actions. And Biden never fired these Blinken and Hochstein, and they don't produce anything. Don't you think it's a little stupid that he would keep them? You got it yet? Did you ever hear Trump say Blinken and Hochstein are a joke and they never produce a ceasefire? I never heard Trump talk like that. Trump knows. He doesn't want to spill the beans. Okay, so what this ceasefire is, right now we don't know. Why? Because Israel's meeting tonight with the Security Council to review the terms of the ceasefire and see if they're willing to make concessions and more likely add more conditions in. So don't think that the ceasefire has arrived. Maybe it has, and I'll tell you why. I can envision the Americans bearing down on Israel and saying, look, you've been trying for months to knock out Hezbollah. It's not working. We appreciate the fact that you don't want to get attacked heavily by Hezbollah when you start attacking Iran and we start attacking Iran with you. So what you need to do is get a ceasefire with these people. Now, Israel is a proxy puppet state of America. Now, many people will reject this, but when you look at the actions, it's true. Biden, how many times have we heard, you don't do this, no more weapons. So he sucks us into a war, and then he dictates to us, and if we don't comply with the dictation, publicly on TV he says, I told Netanyahu you would know what would happen if you don't listen. You see what I'm saying? So he keeps us under control. That's the same thing he does with Ukraine. Okay? And Russia. He's using us to clean up the caliphate that Iran has formed. Yes, Iran has formed the caliphate. Don't kid yourself. The Ayatollah Khomeini is the head of it, the supreme leader of Iran. Is not the elected president. It's the Ayatollah Khomeini, who's mostly a religious leader, but partly a political leader. We don't hear from him publicly. Apparently he had a stroke, and he might also be dead. We don't know. Okay? But I haven't been seeing any media clips of him talking publicly or anything like that. Now, they have to be careful with this stuff because if they're going to run a media clip, it has to be something that was never shown before, that has new information relevant to the present time it's shown. They can't just play old clips. So, America wants to stop Iran. Iran took things further. For months I've been telling you the real alibi for attacking Iran is going to be the nuclear threat. because that plays well. So the IAEE, International Atomic Energy Association or something, it's the International Atomic Energy people, have asked Iran for more transparency, to monitor what they're doing. And Iran said, go fly a kite. And they said they're going to up their production of nuclear materials with many, many more centrifuges, and they actually fulfilled that threat already, and they're pumping out nuclear material like there's no tomorrow. Now, that is grounds for America to get rid of Iran, because Iran is threatening to destroy American bases in the region, other things, and Israel. So Iran wants to go after Israel and to go after America and Israel together. They call Israel the little Satan and America the big Satan. Okay? Now, if you want to look at in terms of Revelation 17 and 18, the Iranian and their caliphate made of their proxies, which is Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Gaza, and Lebanon, want to be, they're basically with the beast who's going to get rid of the whore, burn her and eat her flesh. And the whore is Washington, D.C., and you can think of it in terms of America, and that will happen. So what I'm going to be unveiling to you today about the next temple in Saudi Arabia doesn't ever mean it's going to come true. I'm just telling you that's what they're trying for. Right? You got to always remember that during the broadcast. So what this peace deal is a 60-day ceasefire. Now, Hamas breaks ceasefires all the time. I mean, really breaks them very frequently. So we would assume Hezbollah would be the same way, and historically they can be. They had a ceasefire with us, which they broke over Hamas. So the 60-day ceasefire would operate like this in its present state, which is, don't think Israel's going to agree to it, is that the Lebanese army moves into South Lebanon, which is the distance from the Litani River to the border of Israel, roughly 17 to 18 mile wide. And they move Hezbollah out of there. And Israel withdraws from Lebanon back into Israel, and the Lebanese army stays in South Lebanon and monitors things and makes sure there's no attacks. And Israel's saying, well, if we do agree to this, it's a 60-day ceasefire, it's not the end to the war. You must remember that. And if America and her allies and Israel go through with attacking Iran, there probably wouldn't be much left to motivate Hezbollah to continue fighting against us. But moving along, I'm thinking, I don't know where this thing is at in terms of destroying all the weapons of Hezbollah. It is coming up, and I don't know who's going to do it. I think Israel will not trust the Lebanese army. Remember, the UNFIL troops, UN troops, have been in Lebanon all along, and they never stopped Hezbollah from going south of the Litani River and setting up shop. In one point, months ago, there was footage of Hezbollah launching missiles about 25 meters away from the UNFIL troops who were just hanging around watching and doing nothing. So the UNFIL troops are against Israel, or they're cowardly and don't want to do anything. See, they'd come, a lot of them, from third world countries, and as a guess, they probably paid about roughly $2,000 a month. Plus, they get living expenses. They could bring their families with them, and the UN pays for the apartment for the families, and they get extra money for living expenses, food and utilities and things like this, right? So in a lot of cases, they come from third world countries and poor countries, and they make perhaps more than twice as much being in the UN over here than they do at home. Okay? I mean, they basically don't have to pay rent, and they get a food stipend for the family. You know, they're much better off. It could be 3 times. They don't have to pay rent, they don't have to pay for food, they don't have to pay for medical, and they get private schools paid for. And they're living, on, much better than they do in their home countries. Okay? And they do nothing. Nothing. They're just there. So why should we think the UN would help? They wouldn't. That's why we're going to the Lebanese army with this. But the Lebanese army, for 20 years, watched Hezbollah build up in the south in violation of the UN 1701 ruling or mandate, did nothing about it, and didn't care. What do we care? And what they probably thought, this is just me thinking, is that, Hezbollah can launch 3,000 missiles at least every day, day in and day out. So what do we care if they attack Israel? After a couple of weeks of that, Israel will be destroyed, and then we'll be able to move in and, grab Israel as our own territory, take over the houses and the cars and whatever, right? That was, in my opinion, the attitude that they took towards it. They didn't care. Hezbollah just wants to kill the Jews, and we'll benefit because then we'll take the land of Israel back. And that's it, okay? So they did nothing. So how could we trust these nincompoops now? Well, the reason they want this is because their country's getting destroyed. Beirut and the surrounding suburb, Dahiria or something like that, whatever it's pronounced, I don't know, Dahiria, suburb of Beirut, is being destroyed. Buildings are blowing up and stuff like that. So, and South Lebanon looks like Gaza. So they don't want to see this keep up, because the more and more it keeps up, the more and more of Lebanon gets destroyed. So the Lebanese government is very interested in a ceasefire, because they get nothing to gain if there's a victory from Israel, and they just get decimated in the process. So they're saying Hezbollah's on board with this. And it's also saying that the Lebanese army would be responsible for making sure that no more weapons come into Lebanon. Now, this is so stupid. If Netanyahu agrees to this, I think there'd be a vote of no confidence, because nobody in Israel is dumb enough to believe the Lebanese army, based on 20 years of their past performance, roughly, not exactly 20 years, but roughly, is going to do anything against Hezbollah. Hezbollah has maybe lost 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, maybe 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 guys out of 50,000. Be generous, 10,000. That leaves them 40,000. Why this might be real is Hezbollah did that big attack the other day of 250 to 300 rockets. Now, this is, in the propaganda scheme of things, to let Hezbollah say we beat the Israelis down and they gave up and it's just a surrender. Now, you see what America doesn't ever want to have Israel talk about, and you never read this in the media, is a conditional surrender of Hezbollah. Do you understand? And a conditional surrender from Gaza. So they label it a ceasefire to protect the image of the Muslim murdering terrorists. Understand that. They started it, we didn't. They figure we started it because we're living in our land, Israel. Okay? So, this ceasefire is supposed to allow the Lebanese people to return to their houses. Now, let's talk about that. If Hezbollah is still in the south, which I believe they would be, and why would these people return to their houses, which are destroyed? To return to them means to rebuild. And they're not going to rebuild based on a 60-day ceasefire, which could blow up at any minute. If Hezbollah was destroyed, the non-Hezbollah people would return because they would realize Lebanon's not going to make war with Israel in their minds, and although that's probably not the case, but they may think that's the case. And they'd feel safe going back. Now, the 80,000 plus that have left from the Israel side by the border with Lebanon, are they going to return home based on a 60-day ceasefire that's flaky? I don't think so. I think Israel allowed for them their hotel bills to be paid either until December or through December. I think it was through December. So, I mean, they'd have to go home and start rebuilding their houses. And would they do that based on a goofy 60-day ceasefire that relies on the Lebanese army to stop them from being killed by Hezbollah missiles? I doubt it. But Israel could just come out and say, we are stopping your hotel bills at the end of December, you could return home. Well, there'd be a lot of blowback in Israel over some sort of comment like that, that's for sure. Boy, I gotta get rid of some really nasty people in here. Oh, I gotta get the dogs in. It started raining. I'm sorry. I didn't think it was gonna rain. I'll be right back. I think it started raining. Huh? I'll go take a look. I hear something, but it may not be raining. I don't know what I hear. Chief! Chief! Yeah, I got him. I don't know where he was. He showed up on the steps. I don't know. I couldn't find him. He hid himself someplace. I'll be right back, guys. I got drenched out there. sorry, guys. Apparently, Chief's dog went and hid himself someplace to get out of the rain, and I couldn't find him. And I walked all over the place, and then he surfaced and started going up the steps to come into the house. It wasn't exactly easy for me, so I got pretty good drenching out there, and so did he. But if I put the heater on, I think I can't charge my iPad. Let me just see if I got enough charge to deal with it. Boy, I'm glad this hat's got a waterproof feature to it. Oh man, this weather is just miserable. It's not, the temperature doesn't get that cold in Israel, but it gets cold because the houses are built to be colder than the outside. So it gets very cold in the house. All right, let me get back on this. Okay, let me get back in this. I got the nasties in here today. Imagine what kind of a life people have where they get pleasure out of going around. They don't know anybody in the live streams, and they just go in there and insult people. And they do that for pleasure. Could you imagine how people like that got that point where that's pleasurable to them? All right, so there's also with this Lebanese ceasefire an ingredient in there that if Hezbollah shoots rockets at us or sets up missile launchers or things like that in the south, that Israel can resume attacking them. And Israel's never going to sign on that. And there's also some component about 5 countries unnamed that are going to oversee this, which I'm sure America is one of them. So, let's see what Netanyahu does to it. Netanyahu could wind up getting a vote of no confidence if he agrees to something stupid. And this is not entirely stupid, but it's stupid. Okay? Will Hezbollah show some flexibility? I don't know. If Hezbollah goes for this, Iran is not going to be happy with Hezbollah. If they go for it from Israel's ideas of what it should have in it. So they could be in the outs with Iran. Speaking with the outs, China is expressing displeasure for North Korea signing a mutual defense treaty with Russia that says if either one is invaded, they will immediately come and give any and all necessary aid and assistance to the other party. Now, China has some type of mutual defense situation treaty with Russia. So why would they be so upset about this? You see, what I'm thinking here with North Korea, and I'm deviating, is that North Korea is going to attack South Korea to help Russia by drawing American military to the Asia-Pacific area, and China's going through the motions of, we don't like what they did, because they don't want to get attacked by America. They want North Korea to be doing the attacking. North Korea is a proxy of China. You understand what's going on? That's the reality of that. Okay, so that means to me that North Korea is probably truly and really getting ready, close the window here, truly and really getting ready to attack South Korea as a way of distracting America radically and helping Russia by dragging the American resources over to the Asia Pacific theater. So that makes me think that that's quite real of a problem. So the only thing left to do with the Lebanon-Israel crisis is see what happens tonight when Israel meets with Netanyahu meets with, I think, the Security Cabinet, and they go over this peace treaty. I guarantee you that they're going to put amendments into it. I would say 99.9% chance. Now, why does America want this? Because Israel hasn't been able to shut Hezbollah down. And while Israel is a proxy of America, with Netanyahu, it's not a completely submissive proxy. Okay? It's not. So Netanyahu kicks back against America. And they might be telling Israel, look, we're waiting on Iran. We got all our resources in the Middle East, and you're not succeeding in Hezbollah. So let's wrap this up. We'll do a ceasefire for 60 days, and we'll hit Iran. And Israel's saying, well, as soon as we hit Iran, they're going to start launching at us again. So we have to put a provision in there that says that we can continue our attacks against them if this happens. Okay? See, they're going to try to make it look like Israel surrendered, which is comical. And that's what Hamas tried to. So, let's see what happens. I have a feeling it's not going to go too far. Okay. Now let's talk about Israel, the next temple, and America, and the concept of a fake Israel and Saudi Arabia. What is a fake Israel? A fake Israel is what was created by the United Nations, run by Satan bots in 1948, to create an Israel homeland. Now, what I'm going to tell you is going to shock some of you badly, and you're going to get mad at me. But if you go to Google and look it up, you will find out that what I'm going to tell you is the truth. Before they created Israel as a state, which was May 15th, 1948, when the UN voted on it, what happened is we called the land Palestine, and we lived there under Great Britain. Great Britain had 100,000 soldiers here to contain us, which was the same amount of soldiers they used to contain India, which had a population massively larger than us. By May 15th, the British had moved out of Israel 100%, lock, stock, and barrel, 100%. And they said, we wash our hands of this mandate, we're done, we're out, it's over. So then Israel files independence with the United Nations. Well, the first question is, who the heck were they going independent from? There was nobody saying they were going to administer them. Well, some people say Great Britain was working on behalf of the UN, and that would have some validity. So we'll run with that. And then they changed the name to Israel. And America and the United Nations countries put arms embargoes on Israel, okay, and several of the Arab countries surrounding Israel. However, Russia came and sold these Arab countries weapons, and the UN didn't do anything about it, but nobody was selling weapons to Israel. So Israel had to go to Czechoslovakia, who had a bunch of old World War II weapons. Mind you, this is 1948. and they needed to be, put into shape and rebuilt and stuff like that, which Israel did. Okay? America put an arms embargo on Israel and the UN. America and the UN. You got that? This was the beginning of a fake Israel, okay, under the UN. It was not the birth of a nation in a day. This is a fake Israel. They never had a leader that followed Torah since 1948. Never, ever, ever, ever. Bible, I mean. Never. Never came close. What about those parades? You know the ones I'm talking about through Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. Netanyahu was the worst leader Israel ever had in thousands of years. No other leader would have ever done what he did. Think about that. That's a death penalty offense under the law. Think about it. Okay? So, what I think they were trying to do was finish the final solution and collect the leftover Jews that Hitler didn't get into Israel, and then let the Arabs finish them off. You think I'm wrong? Put your comments up. What does Biden say? Well, Netanyahu knows if he doesn't listen, what's going to happen, which means the weapons get cut off. Every time you turn around, they're delaying shipment of weapons. After they got us into this war with October 7th, but I don't want to go through that again. I've done it so many times. So, what they've been trying to do, including Trump, by the way, Trump, through his entire 4 years as president, kept pushing Israel to do a two-state solution, but he never bore down hard on it, okay? So the chances of Israel ever giving the West Bank back to the Muslims or making it a Palestinian state is about zero. The Israeli people know what will happen. They saw what Hezbollah did. They saw what Yemen did. They saw what Hamas did. They see what's going on with the Iran-backed militias in Syria and Iraq. And they're in no way, shape, or form dumb enough to fall for that. If there's a Palestinian state, weapons will flow through Jordan. They'll create an airstrip. Planes will land there with weapons. I mean, it's just like Israel saying, well, we're going to have a good 6 months or maybe up to 2 years, and then we're all going to be dead or put in ovens. And the Israelis aren't going to go for that. The secular Israelis aren't going to go for that. They're not that stupid. So I think that they've realized that the two-state solution is got rigor mortis, and it's not going anywhere. Okay? The latest chatter about that is Israel's going to annex the settlements in the territory of the West Bank, as they call it, Samaria and Judea, which means they'll make the settlements, which is where the Israeli so-called Zionists live, part of the state of Israel, and the rest of it will go to Palestine, which is stupid because these settlements will be surrounded by what is now called Palestine, and they'll overrun and keep them in constant terrorism attacks and won't stop. So it's absurd, okay? And that could cause the vote of no confidence against Netanyahu, and somebody more right-wing would step in, okay? And make things worse, because then they might start trying to drive the Palestinians out of the West Bank or contain them in fewer and fewer areas and encircle them with walls and soldiers because of their terroristic bend. Okay? So now what we see here is Jews are going up on I'm losing internet, and why I don't know. It keeps cutting in and out. I hope it holds up. Looks like it's holding up. I don't understand it. I think when I switch to the fiber optics, it's slightly faster, and it's 3 times more trouble, or twice as much. Anyway, they have another plan, and I'll work this. So the Jews are going up there. They have the red heifers, and they could burn the red heifers, put the ashes in the water, sprinkle the water on the people, and make them sanctified as the Orthodox Jews understand it. And then they would feel qualified, due to the red heifer water cleansing, to go up to the Temple Mount and pray. And the thought with the Muslims is that once they start doing that, they will say, well, we can't pray in front of this abomination, the Dome of the Rock, the Allah's Mosque. We got to take these things down. And they would be taken down by Israel. All right, now I got to lay this out for you because it's rather complicated, and some of you may not grasp it because you don't know the ins and outs of the Middle East. Iran would dump all kinds of missiles on us if this happened. They would have to. And they might start telling other countries to help them in the jihad against Israel. If they don't, they would consider them enemies, and they might attack Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, blah, 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 right? Using the militias in Iraq and Syria, using Iran, and using Yemen. And Hezbollah has soldiers in Syria and probably Iraq as well. So what they're coming up with is like this. You hear talks about Saudi Arabia and normalization for, 3 years? Going back to Trump, we heard it. 5 years, probably 6 years. And I always said, what the heck do we need normalization for Saudi Arabia? It's stupid. There's no reason for it. What are we going to get out of it? We can fly over their airspace. Who cares? I don't see it. Saudi tourists are going to come to Israel? I doubt it. What does Israel have that attracts them? They're not going to go to Hebron and Ramallah and places like that. It's dangerous for them. You know, they got $200,000-$300,000 of jewelry on or something. Where are they going to go? Oh, businessmen will fly to Tel Aviv and make deals with Israel companies, with bodyguards, and politicians will go to Tel Aviv, but tourism for me, I don't see it. Okay. So now we got to talk about the Sunnis and the Shiites for you to understand this. The Shiites in the Middle East are the radical terrorist states. I'll name them again. Gaza, Lebanon, Hezbollah specifically. Lebanon is not a pure Muslim state. They have Buddhists, they got Hindus, they got atheists, they got Catholics, they got Christians, and they got Islam. They got a good piece of Islam up there, but there's many people in the government and the Congress over there that are not Islam. Yet they tolerated Hezbollah's efforts to kill the Jews for about 20 years. So you have to take a hard look at that. Okay? Moving along. I'm thinking. The Shiite states, again, are Yemen, Gaza, Lebanon to a point, Iraq, Syria, and Iran. Those are the ones that are the warmongers. The rest of them aren't. Jordan's not warmongering. Oman's not warmongering. Neither is Saudi Arabia. Neither is the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, or Kuwait. Okay, that's your Middle East. Turkey is sort of, but not really completely wacko, and Egypt as well. So these Sunni states have great doctrinal disagreements with the Shiites, and they fight amongst themselves avidly. The Sunni states are run by dictators. They call themselves kings, emirs, all kinds of words. They're dictators. And they hoard the wealth for themselves, and they pass the wealth on to their children. All right. And the Quran apparently speaks against this. The wealth should be divided among the people, and these kings are not about to give up getting, gold-plated Rolls Royces and $3 million Bugattis and $400-500 million yachts and $200-300 million jets they use airliner jets for their own personal airplanes, and they have 25,000 square foot mansions. Many of those, they might have 90 or 100 servants in their house. They don't live. They daily fly foods in from all over the world. Okay? They fly in whatever they want, fresh fruits and vegetables from all over the world. The best meats, they don't bring pork in. But pretty much most everything else, they do eat lobster and shrimp and crab. They bring in caviar, right? They'll have the food companies either fly it directly to them or bring it to the embassy in that particular country. So they might have an embassy in Moscow, and the caviar fishermen, or whatever you want to call them, bring the caviar to the embassy, nice big 10-pound tins, case of 2 of them. And they put it in the diplomatic pouch and fly it into Saudi Arabia. That's a lot of the times that's how it works, because the local people for food and vegetables aren't really that savvy in how to take refrigerated product and get it on FedEx and stuff to Israel. So they just deliver it to the embassy, who knows how to take care of that. And so they're sitting there, no matter what season of the year it is, they're eating the best of food in the world. And they have their clothes, the best jewelry, the best cars. They get the best of everything, right? And that's what their life is about, consumption. He who dies with the most toys wins, So they have foreigners do the work for the oil mostly. They're incompetents, and they tend to favor America. They're not with the beast, they're with the whore of Babylon, okay? And the Shiites believe in these writings called the Hadith, which is not in the Quran. It's a supplemental writing that they feel is very valid, but the Sunnis don't think it's valid at all. Sort of, if you wanted a lousy analogy, apocryphal books and the Bible or something like that. It's not exact, of course, because the Quran's not the Bible. I mean, it's, one false writing from another. So what? What about the Tibetan Book of the Dead? It's a similar thing. What about the stories of the baby Buddha, the young Buddha? It's the same nonsense. Okay. Or writing about that statue of the woman with 8 arms in India. What do they call it? Kali or something? I don't know what they call it. All right. So the Hadith says that this is the conclusions they come to. The red heifers in Israel, which haven't been around for a long time, thousands of years, are going to enable the Orthodox Jews, the ultra-Orthodox Jews, to become ritually purified or cleansed, and they're afraid to go up on the Temple Mount, which has the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That's not the real Temple Mount. That's where the Roman fort was, Fort Antonius. But the way they interpret it is that the wall they call the Wailing Wall, or a Hakotel in Hebrew, is a wall from the Roman fort, because Yeshua said that not one stone will be left standing. And, you know, Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21. So to make Yeshua out to be a false prophet, they produce this wall, and they say that's a wall from the temple. I seriously doubt it was. The Pool of Siwan is, I don't know, 800-900 feet away, and that was probably more close to the temple. So the Mount Zion, the mountain that the Temple Zion has been dismantled by some armies many centuries ago and never rebuilt. Okay, when Herod's temple was around, it was on an elevated mountain. After that, sometime some guy's army came and they knocked it down with shovels and picks or whatever, right? All right, so they disregard these things, the rabbis, and anyway, the Muslims in the Hadith are told that the Jews are going to go up to the Temple Mount with the red heifer cleansing, start praying, the ultra-Orthodox Jews, which they really don't go up there. Orthodox do, not the ultra-Orthodox, the black coats, of which I think there's 1.2 million in Israel. Now, they don't have to take a bath in the red heifer water. They just need a sprinkling, apparently. You just sprinkled on. So they might have enough red heifers to make enough of that water. They probably do. Or to just get the men of adult age, which would reduce the number greatly. They can probably do it. And then they go up on the Temple Mount, they start praying, and they say, we got to get rid of this abomination. They get rid of that. They build another temple. And the other temple has a false Messiah in it. And this false Messiah tells the Jews they have to kill all the Muslims, and then the Muslims in a holy war will fight against them. This is what the Shiite doctrine is. The Sunnis don't go for this at all, because they say that it's not the Quran, it's the Hadith, and they're not buying it, okay? That's a big rift between the two groups. Now, the Sunnis are of the position that the Dome of the Rock is not where Muhammad ascended up to heaven. They say it's a fraud, because the time the Dome of the Rock was built is after, apparently, when the Quran says Muhammad ascended to heaven, so it's an impossibility. Do you have this down? Okay. So they're in great disagreement about the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Now, in the region, the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock are considered to be very holy places. And this Saudi young guy that's running the country now is of the opinion that it's you got to listen to this, is that it's Jerusalem and the Dome of the Rock thing in the Al-Aqsa Mosque. There's a mosque in the Dome of the Rock thing right up in the same area, which is, I've been there a few times. I don't know, what you're looking at the whole area, I don't know, 12, 15, 18 acres or something. It's not that big, maybe even 10 acres. It's not that much. I don't think it's 100 acres. It might be 12 as a guess, or 18 acres, something like that. It's not a huge area. And they keep the Jews restricted as to when they could go up and where they could go. All right. So Netanyahu has had to give ground to the right-wing contingent in Israel, which are part of his coalition, or they will do a vote of no confidence and get him to be thrown out of office by election, which in times of war can happen in a day or two. So they're not ultra-Orthodox, these two guys, Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, but they're Orthodox. So they're in favor of the Jews going up there, and they've pushed on Netanyahu, and they can now go up certain hours most days of the week and pray up there, which they weren't allowed to pray up there, and they could hardly get up there just on some holidays. So they've opened that up a lot. So the Shiites are possibly increasing the war because of the red heifers and the going up on the Temple Mount more frequently, because they're following the Hadith, Haddith, I think it's spelled. They're following this, which says that they're going to start out by using the red heifers and getting cleansed, going up there to pray, and then getting rid of the Dome of Rock, the Alas Mas, and building a temple. And a false Messiah is going to come there and tell the Jews to kill all the Muslims. Satan deviates from the Bible, of course, but he's obviously Bible inspired to some extent. But of course, he twists and turns it into, his own doctrine. So the Muslims have what's called the Black Rock in Mecca. It's this big black building that is considered a holy place. Now, let me get a list of all their holy places for you. Islam holy places. Let's see. There's a mosque in Hebron, Israel, which is quite popular to Islam as a holy place. The Sunnis and the Muslims have there's the Kaaba is the black rock thing in Mecca, and they seem to agree that's the holiest place. Let me keep checking here. They seem to agree the holiest one is that Kaaba in Saudi Arabia, which Saudi Arabia has, and all the Muslims are required to make a hajj or something, a trip to the Kaaba once in their life. They have water there. It's called Zum Zum. It's a well that's a long time ago. And Bechtel Corporation went over there in the 50s and helped them improve the water flow for the Kaaba with desalination, I think, from the Red Sea and stuff to enable them to have more water. And what they teach the people is they go to, I think it's the well, the Zoom is what they call it, ZUM. You could look it up in Google, and they circle this well 7 times in a counterclockwise fashion, stealing from Jericho in the Bible, I expect, Satan did. And that's supposed to give them some sort of special power when they drink. After that, they drink the water. It's some myth, right? So now, of course, Saudi Arabia is full of water from years of flooding and snow and rain and hail and everything else. But moving along, they could accommodate more people with enough water supply. The Saudis put up communal tents that might hold 40 or 50 people, and they run air conditioners in there for the Hajj, because it could get very, very hot in Saudi Arabia, so the people need a lot of water, and they need to be, in old days, they would be in the shade, which could still be brutal, but today they go in these air-conditioned tents, which I don't think are that cool. So if it's 120 outside, they might get it to 90 in the tent or 95 or something like that. But it probably is enough to keep them going. Or maybe they get it down to 80. I don't know. They might put big air conditioners in there. The Saudis are not worried about money, you know. So they'll just, it goes on for a few days, and they'll just run the air conditioners day and night. Maybe they put enough air conditioners in there. They might put 4 or 5 that they get it to 70 degrees or 75 degrees. I don't have any idea. But if the Saudis did it, it's probably reasonably well air conditioned. And they need water. They need that, and then they do things, like they throw rocks at some stick image they built, and that's like throwing rocks at the devil. Nonsense like this, So, the Saudis want to be the dominant holy site in Islam. They don't want competition. They got this mosque in Hebron that's some competition, not heavy, but the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque is major competition, because the Shiites are of the belief that Muhammad ascended to heaven from the Dome of the Rock. The Sunnis know that the Quran dates for Muhammad's death and the Al-Aqsa Mosque don't match, and it's an impossibility that he ascended from there. So they don't buy it. So Saudi Arabia wants to, this is shocking. It appears they want to turn Jerusalem over to the Jews, the government of Israel, and let them knock down this Al-Aqsa Mosque and Dome of the Rock, because it's a false teaching, and thus it's a false image. It's evil in their doctrine. You got it? Because it's telling the people this is where Muhammad ascended. So by doing that, he makes a statement through the world of Islam that, look, if Allah wanted it, it wouldn't be knocked down. It would be there. it's gone because it's not true. It's a lie. It deviates from the Quran. And it does, but the Quran's not a holy book, but it deviates from it. Therefore, the Shiites are a bunch of jackasses, and let the Jews have Jerusalem. It belongs to the Jews. They're our half brothers through Abraham. Let them have it. You see, the Saudis are Arabs. The Iranians are not Arabs. They're Persians. It's a big difference. And they're the ones fueling Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and the militias in Iraq and Syria. And, you know, the Iranians are not Arabs. Now, there's a lot of resentment. They don't want non-Arab Muslims running the show in the Middle East, and Iran wants to run the show. And Iran wants to strip the wealth from all the royal families in Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, which are all kings or emirs. And they want that money to be used for the people. In reality, what they would want that money to be used for is missiles, aircraft carriers, aircraft, you know, stuff like that. So they want to reign, the Shiites want to reign the Middle East with an iron hand. They want America out of the way. And they don't want an Israel because they think this Dome of the Rock, or their party line narrative is this Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, are super important holy sites. You understanding this? I hope so. So they want to get rid of them. They want to get Israel out of Israel and just have, they don't want this business where you're going to make Jerusalem divided. You're going to have a Catholic section, which don't call a Christian section, but make it Catholic. And then you're going to have a Jewish section and an Islamic section. They don't want any part of that. Shiites want total domination of Jerusalem by Islam. And the Saudis are saying that this Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque is a false image, a false holy site, because they're attributing things to it that could never possibly have happened. So you got a problem. So the Saudis don't want to see the Iranian caliphate grow in the area. You got to listen to this. It's very complicated. They don't want to see the Iranian-led caliphate in the area anymore because they are pushing Saudi Arabia around. The Houthis, in about the last 2 years, attacked on 2 occasions the Aramco oil refinery in Saudi Arabia with missiles and damaged it. And now you see Saudi Arabia kowtowing to Iran and saying we can't take oil in dollars or euros. So Iran the Saudi Arabia is kind of scared about Biden not backing them, and they're pulling away from America to stay out of a war with Iran, because if a war breaks out, all their oil refineries and storage tanks and all that are going to go up in smoke, and their ports and their piers, and they know it. The Houthis will do it. It'll come from Iraq. It'll come from Syria. It'll come from Yemen. And it might come from Iran. So they don't want it. They don't want anything like this. So they want to discredit the Shiite religion, and then they, meaning the Sunni states, can live in peace and prosperity, and they could go back to eating their, a tin of caviar that's about this big and about that thick could cost $10,000, $20,000. The caviar they get, they don't care. They sit there and shovel it in like popcorn. They don't care. Do you understand? So, they want life to continue like it has been, and Iran is making it too difficult. The Houthis are shutting down shipping. So this takes us to the Abrahamic Accords with the normalization of relations with Israel. So the Saudis are saying, well, you got to have a Palestinian state, and then we can normalize with you. The Saudis are afraid to normalize with Israel okay, without Israel creating a Palestinian state. They don't want to be accused of the Shiite Muslims of being against them. And it's thick. It's real confusing. So the Saudis are of the position, okay, let Israel have Jerusalem. Let them build a temple if they want to build a temple, and we'll discredit the Shiites when this happens, and they're going to have to gravitate to Mecca because that's going to be the top dog holy site, which it really is now, but it'll be even more so because there's no Dome of the Rock to go to. Along with this, the mosque in Hebron, of course, will probably fold as well, so that'll be gone. So the two of the three most holy sites are out the window, and it leaves the Kaaba, the black rock thing, in Mecca. And the Saudis now are positioned to lead a caliphate. And who would go in their caliphate? Well, easy. I'll give you a list. It's not hard. You'd have, of course, Saudi Arabia. You'd have Oman. You'd have the UAE, probably Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan. So if Hamas is busted out, which they are, and Hezbollah is busted out, which apparently not enough yet, and then we need to see the Houthis busted out, then Saudi Arabia can emerge as the new potential leader not Iran. And this fight that Iran is promoting with the Hadith that you got to stop the Jews, that's why Hamas said they started the war, because of the red heifers. And they saw this whole thing coming. You see, they think that if this happens, the Israelites will purify them, the ultra-Orthodox, which is 1.2 million, purify themselves, go to the Temple Mount, get sick and tired of looking at the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, say these are abominations in the eyes of God, rip them down with a violent riot, build another temple. And then the false Messiah is going to come and tell them to kill Islam, and they'll go take their F-35s and F-16s and kill Islam, all the Islamic countries. That's what Iran's party line is, and Saudi Arabia's party line is, hey, just let him have Jerusalem. The Hadith's not the Quran. We don't follow that. It's wrong. Forget about it, you know. So when Jerusalem is housing the next temple, it discredits the Shiite doctrine with the Hadith, and their whole movement would fall apart against Israel. It's hard to understand. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen whatsoever, because I don't think it will. But this is what Saudi's pushing for, but it needs an alibi to get there. Okay, so when they normalize relations with Israel, it would be sticking out the olive branch. Israel's our half brother. We like Israel, you know, and they're not bad. And the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa were a big lie from the Shiites, and you should ignore the Shiites. They're crazy, and, you know. Then everything shifts to Saudi Arabia. The other countries who want peace and prosperity, and they want to keep buying their Rolls Royces and Rolexes, side with Saudi Arabia, not necessarily let them officially run their country, but kind of side with them. And America does too, and then America has the control of the oil in the Middle East, and things are peaceful and copacetic, and that's how it flows. Now, 1.2 million ultra-Orthodox have been telling the state of Israel that if you draft us, we're going to leave Israel. I think they would go to Egypt, but that remains to be seen. Now, the Supreme Court is telling Netanyahu, we want you to show cause why you have not been inducting these ultra-Orthodox. And he sent draft notices out to several thousand of them, but I don't believe more than maybe 100 or 200 ever showed up to sign up for the draft. Maybe 300 or something, not many. Yeah, they put arrest warrants out for Netanyahu, Gallant, and one other guy. Seriously diluted truth. Well, anybody can come in, an 11-year-old child could come in and write seriously diluted truth, but you have no counter argument. Just saying that, like I said, a 6-year-old kid could do it. Doesn't mean anything. You have a seriously wrong opinion. I don't back it up, but I am backing it up. Okay. So that's what the Saudis are looking for, and that's why this whole big push for normalization relations with the Saudis, because the Saudis want to do this. And this is something that would appease the Jews. Now, half of Israel is secular, roughly, and they would not want to go to war to build another temple, obviously. But if another temple was being built and it would bring more peace in the region, they'd go for it, because more peace means I can get a bigger car, nicer clothes, take better vacations. That's what they care about, money. The secular, okay? The Jews, be they, minimal Jew, Orthodox Jew, ultra-Orthodox Jew, will all support the temple. And the divisions in Israel will subside, and fake Israel marches on with the rabbis running the temple, making an abomination out of it, just like they did with Herod's temple when Yeshua whipped them with a rope because they were turning the house of prayer, God's temple, into a house of merchandise, making merchandise of God's people. So the fake Israel marches on with a temple that the rabbis themselves build, run, and administer, and the Jews calm down, and the Arabs calm down, and that's it. To make this work, you got to have Hamas go night-night, which they sort of have. You got to put Hezbollah down, and you got to clean out Iraq and Syria, and you got to take care of Iran, and then you're okay. And they think that this would accomplish a very long-term, lasting peace and let the oil flow. All right. Now, let's take a look at what the Bible says about the next temple and see if this makes any sense. Okay? Because you got to do that. If you don't do that, you're not really... Oh, the seriously diluted truth comes back with no counter argument. Okay. Seriously has no arguments, just spits out, hey, you people like that. They probably just go in the chat and they write a nasty comment and then they go away. They just run around doing that as a lifestyle that gives them pleasure. Great. Okay, moving along, let's go into the Bible to Ezekiel 37. The last 3 verses of the chapter. Well, actually, we can go up a little bit. All right, then we'll go to verse 26. It reads like this: Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant. Now, this covenant of peace is what the church did an abomination on and said it's the man of sin, the beast, or the Antichrist. They can't even get the titles right. Is going to make a covenant with Israel and break it in 7 years. And they have perverted the truth. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply. It'll be everlasting as far as God's concerned, but they could break it. And I will place them. Place them means put them there. And the word for place is 54:14 in Strong's, which is Natan. It means place. And multiply them. Multiply them means many children. And will set my sanctuary in the midst of them. The sanctuary is the temple. It's set in the midst of them forevermore. So it's not going to be destroyed. And it says, I will set. Well, the word for set is the same word Natan. So why don't we read it as place? Because it's the same exact word. So it says, and will place my temple or sanctuary. They're confusing you with sanctuary. The word here in the Hebrew is mikdash, which is temple. In the midst of them forevermore. Jerusalem is the midst of them. So God's going to place it there. Let me develop this with you and you'll understand. My tabernacle also shall be with them. It was in the apocryphal book of 2nd Maccabees 2, chapter 2. It was hidden by Jeremiah the prophet before the Babylonian captivity in Mount Nebo, which I believe is in Saudi Arabia, maybe, where Moses died. He saw the promised land but didn't enter it. And this, Jeremiah saw a cave, and he put the Ark of the Covenant, the tabernacle, and the altar of incense in the cave. And then he sealed it up until God shows mercy unto his people. And the people that came back that were helping transport it came back and tried to find the opening, but Jeremiah made it that nobody could find it again. Of course, the next prophets, which would be Elijah and Apostle John, the two witnesses, would, I'm pretty sure, be able to find it. It was hidden by a prophet. It'll be found by a prophet. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their God, Elohim, and they shall be my people. And the heathen, the Goyim, shall know. The heathen shall know that Ani Yehovah, I Yehovah, do sanctify. Okay, now let's check that word out. It's kadosh. All right. Kadosh Kadashim is holiest of holies. It means holy, not so much sanctified. They're confusing you. That Yehovah do make holy Israel when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. So God places the sanctuary in Jerusalem, and it makes the heathen know that God made Israel holy. That's the takeaway from this. All right. Now, let me build on this. Go to Malachi 3, verse 1. Behold, I will send my messenger. Malachi is mispronounced. It's Malach. It means messenger. Messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. Who does that? Elijah. John the Baptist was doing it, but they asked him if he was Elijah, and he said no, but he had the spirit of Elijah, but he was not Elijah. This will be Elijah. And he shall prepare the way before me, and Jehovah, or Adonai rather, it says, the Lord Adonai, whom you shall seek, shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of, okay, so he shall come to his temple. And Hekal is the word there in the Hebrew, and it means a temple. Okay, so we see the temple there again. Even the Malach, or the messenger of the covenant, whom you delight in. Now it's talking about Elijah again. Behold, he shall come, saith Jehovah of hosts. But who may abide the day of his coming? Now the word for coming is Strong's number 935, and it means come, it means bow. Who may abide the day, Yom Bo, day comes, and who shall stand? Now, the word for stand is, you got a sneezer, Chief? Strong's deals with this word a little differently. Let's look at Strong's. It says abide is his first choice, I think. So they say stand. Strong says appoint, abide, appoint, arise, cease, confirm. So we could say abide or stand there. Who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand? Oh, now it says abide, and then it says stand. When he appeareth, for he is like a refiner's fire, and like the fuller's soap, and he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto Jehovah. As in the days of old, as in the former years. So Elijah trains the Levites, probably in the whole Torah and the New Testament, so they know how to walk right with Jehovah. It's not about technically sacrificing animals. That's probably part of it, but a very small part. And when they make the offerings acceptable unto Jehovah, the blessings of the Lord, Deuteronomy 28, come on them, which explains the victory of Zechariah 12, when the two witnesses burn up the enemies surrounding Judah and Jerusalem. And that's found in Zechariah 12:6, and the church never teaches you that. And you should ask yourself why. And it says, now, so the Levites are being purified like gold and silver to make the offerings acceptable unto the Lord. Okay? Well, they make the offering in righteousness, which means, as Tzedakah, they're operating in righteousness, which means they're following the law. They're not doing evil. It's not about the mechanical aspects of sacrificing the animal and burning. You know, it's more, it's that too, but it's predominantly about their walking right with the Lord in their life, not just what they do at the Temple Mount their whole life. Okay. Because like in Herod's temple days when Yeshua was on earth, that was not the case. They were evil and they were just impersonating being good guys, right? Now, Elijah is going to purify them like gold and silver. We have to understand Zechariah 13:8 and 9. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith Jehovah, 2 parts or 2/3 therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them, and I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah is my God. So you put the two together, and now you see Elijah there. And Elijah is likely... Shut up, Chief! We're on the air. You don't understand it. Now, Elijah is likely there, perhaps before the next temple. Let's go back to Malachi 3. Behold, I will send my Malach, and he shall prepare the way before me. And the Adonai, that's the glory of God of Israel that lives in the temple. That's the angel of the Lord. There, shut up! No! No, no, no! That's the angel of the Lord that was with the children of Israel in the wilderness with Moses and Aaron. His name is Michael, and that in Exodus 23, verse 20, God put his name Jehovah in that angel, so amongst many other things, he can receive the offerings for Jehovah, and at times he's referred to as Jehovah. Why? Because God put his name in them. Church never teaches this. Exodus 23, verse 20. I think I should read that to you. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place where I have prepared. But, they used to follow him. He was a cloud during the day and a fire by night. And when he moved, they followed him with the tabernacle. They collapsed it and carried it and followed him. Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgression, for my name is in him. In him, okay? Cherub, in the midst, in the inner part, okay? I don't believe there's any other angel that's this way. Okay? They don't teach this. So I will send my Malach, and he shall prepare the way before me. So it's sounding like Elijah will be there before the temple. And the Lord whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple. So the Adonai whom you seek. So apparently the temple is there before the glory of God of Israel shows up. Now, possibly the tabernacle, possibly, comes first, but I don't think that's the case. I think the tabernacle is for when the people go in the wilderness, when they come in the next great Exodus, they stop in the wilderness and enter, they pass under the rod and enter into the bond of the covenant. And you find that in Ezekiel chapter 20, beginning in verse 33 to the end. Church never teaches that. Okay, so the next thing we need to see is learn a little bit more about this next temple, which we pick up in Ezekiel 43, verse 1. Afterward he brought me to the gate, even the gate that looketh towards the east. Now, I know the Muslims around this compound, they have a wall around the Dome of Rock Alas compound, and it has a gate on the east, and they buried dead Muslims in the ground in front of that gate. So the scriptures with the glory of God of Israel, which you're going to read right now, coming into the temple, they felt that if he tried to walk on that land, he would be defiled because of the unclean dead bodies of Muslims. But that is not what you're going to read. And here we go, verse 2. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel, that would probably be Michael, came from the way of the east. That's where the Mount of Olives is, in reference to the temple, a third of a mile away. And his voice was like a noise of many waters, and the earth shined with his glory. The earth shined with his glory. You're going to understand how powerful that is. Isaiah 60, verse 1. Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But Jehovah will arise, that's the glory of God of Israel, upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. Church don't teach this. Then it says, but who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem, we still don't have all the land back, be pleasant unto Jehovah as in the days of old, as in the former years. And I will come to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, against the adulterers, and against false swearers, and against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow, and the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith Jehovah. Saith Jehovah of armies, for I am Jehovah, I change not, therefore you sons of Jacob are not consumed. All right, so back to Ezekiel 43. So now we're seeing the glory of God of Israel suddenly come to his temple. In verse 2, and behold, the glory of God of Israel came from the way of the east, and his voice was like the noise of many waters, and the earth, or the land of Israel, shined with his glory. And the word for glory is kabod. And it was according to the appearance of the vision which I saw, even according to the vision that I saw when I came to destroy the city. And the vision were like the vision that I saw by the river Kabar, and I fell upon my face. He's talking about the visions he saw in Ezekiel chapters 1 and 2 when he was in the Babylonian captivity. When he says destroy the city, it means that he came to prophesy what's going to happen, because the Lord does nothing before he reveals it through his prophets. And the glory of the Lord came into the house by the way of the gate, whose prospect is towards the east. And that's why they put the dead bodies up there. But the temple won't really be in that exact location at all. It'll be several hundred feet away, something like that. So, and it'll be on the mountain that God will have to build Mount Zion back for us, I believe. So the Spirit took me up and brought me into the inner court, and behold, the glory of Jehovah filled the house. And I heard him speaking unto me out of the house, and the man stood by me, and he said unto me, Son of man, the place of my throne and the place of the soles of my feet, where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever. Forever. Now, when you read about New Jerusalem, there's no temple in New Jerusalem, but the glory of God is in there, enthroned right near Yeshua. You read it, it's Revelation 21:22. They're both in there. So he leaves from the temple and goes into New Jerusalem when the time comes. And my whole where am I? Where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever, and my holy name shall the house of Israel no more defile, neither they nor their kings by their whoredom, nor by the carcasses of their kings in their high places. In their settings of their threshold by my thresholds, and their posts by my posts, and the wall between me and them. They have even defiled my holy name by their abominations that they have committed. Wherefore I have consumed them in my anger. Now let them put away their whoredom and the carcass of their kings far from me, and I will dwell in the midst of them forever. Thou son of man, show the house to the house of Israel, that they may be ashamed of their lawlessness, and let them measure the pattern. And if they be ashamed of all that they have done, show them the form of the house, and the fashion thereof, and the goings out thereof, and the comings in thereof, all the forms thereof, and all the ordinances thereof, and all the forms thereof, and all the laws thereof, and write them in their sight, that they may keep the whole form thereof, and all the ordinances thereof, and do them. We're not told how to build the temple like we were told to build the tabernacle. In other words, there's doors, but we don't know how high they are, how wide they are, how thick they are, what wood or material they're made out of, and what color they are. We don't know what color the walls are, what the floor is made out of. We don't have building details for this. We have enough knowledge that when the temple comes down from heaven, because God places it here, as I see it, we will know how to operate and behave in the temple. What doors you go in and go out, and you'll be able to recognize the temple based on what you have here, but you don't have enough information to construct it. This is the law of the house. You see, there's a law that's called Brit, like Brit Hadashah, the New Testament or the New Law. And there's a law. I'm sorry, I have it wrong. It's a Torah, rather. This word's Torah, not Brit, Torah. It's the law. It means the law. So there's a law of the house, of this temple. It's Bait in Hebrew. It's a house because the glory of God of Israel lives in it. The whole limit thereof round about shall be most holy. Behold, this is the law of the house. And these are the measures of the altar after the cubits. The cubit is a cubit and a hand breadth. Okay, so a cubit is like from here to here, from here to the center of the palm. Of course, in each man it will vary, but I guess you could whack it at maybe 18 inches. And the breadth of a cubit and the border thereof, the edge thereof round about shall be a span, and this shall be the higher place. And from the bottom upon the pound even to the lower settle shall be 2 cubits, and it goes on, and now it goes to the altar. So the altar shall be 4 cubits, and from the altar and upward shall be 4 horns, and the altar shall be 12 cubits long. See, here you're given details about the altar, because as you'll soon see, we build the altar. The altar's in the inner court outside the temple. It's not in the temple. And the settle shall be 14 cubits and 14 broad in the 4 squares. And the border about it shall be half a cubit, and the bottom thereof shall be a cubit, and his stairs will look towards the east. So you have few steps to go up to the altar, and the steps faced the eastern side of the temple. And he said unto me, Son of man, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, these are the ordinances or the rules or the law of the altar. In the day when they shall make it, we build the altar. He never said in the day that you shall make the temple. You got it? We build the altar, which is not the temple, it's outside. Brazen altar takes 8 days to purify. To offer burnt offerings thereon, and to sprinkle blood thereon. And thou shalt give to the priests, the Levites, that are of the seed of Zadok, which approach unto me to minister unto me, saith Adonai Jehovah, a young bullock for a sin offering, and thou shalt take of the blood thereof and put it on the four corners. Okay, he's telling them about how to work with the altar. So that's where it's at. So this thing, could there be room for a false temple to be built by the rabbis? I doubt it. Would Netanyahu like it? Well, what do you think if Israel did build a temple by the rabbis, a false Israel type false temple? What do you think that would do for tourism to Israel? How many millions of people a month would come to Israel to watch the priests do the sacrifices and the offerings and pray and all that? How many would come? 1 million a month? Nah. 8, 10 million a month? Minimum. Maybe 20 million. People would make pilgrimage to the temple every year. They would come for Christmas. They would come for Easter. They would come all the time. What would that do for Israel? The rabbis would tell the Jews, you have to come to the temple, you know. But the Christians would come and the Catholics would come like crazy, and secular tourists would come. Israel would be swimming in tourist revenue. They'd pay a head tax at the airport. El Al would probably expand tenfold. The hotels would spring up like there's no tomorrow. Okay? You'd have rent-a-car companies would be massive. Although that wouldn't be such, to see the rest of Israel. It would mostly be taxis, buses, the streetcars and stuff like that, because the parking, the traffic is horrible. And they would go, there would be restaurant business, gift shop business, tour businesses. They'd go to the Galilee, they'd go to Eilat, they'd go to Tel Aviv, they'd go all over the country. It would surpass Israel's weapons sales. It would be a major rich country just on the tourism. Be massive. You wouldn't be, they'd have to start docking cruise ships at Haifa. They'd probably dock 3 cruise ships at a time. The churchianity preachers would start with the temple cruise. We're going to, go to Rome and Ephesus and Corinth and see where Paul was. And then we're going to dock in Haifa for 2 or 3 days in Israel. And we're going to go tour Israel and go to Jerusalem. We're going to go to the temple and all that. Can you imagine? So Netanyahu knows that Israel will have a new industry, but I mean, this would be massive. I mean, it would be huge. Israel would be able to live on it. It's not going to happen. But that way, it's not going to happen with them building a fake Israel temple. You're not going to see that. You're not going to see a false temple, and then the Antichrist is going to go in and do his 7-year thing, and then it's not going to happen. But I'm just telling you this because this is what they're planning, and this is what they're trying to do, and why they're trying to do it. And one of the key takeaways here is it's a tremendous amount of Israelis, the Jews, which I'm one of, a Jew, and they want to have a temple now. And they want to get rid of the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And they don't want Jerusalem trodden down to the Goyim, the heathen, anymore. So this is the counter answer to that. Maybe they'll try to dupe Israel and say, if you give up the West Bank, you'll have Jerusalem. Israel might be dumb enough to go for that. I don't think so. They'll just say, yeah, for how long? 3 months, 6 months? I don't think so. So I thought that was rather interesting. Ukraine is still shooting the ATACMS missiles into Russia. They shot yesterday, I think, at the Kursk airport, Russian airport in Russia, where Russia keeps a lot of fighter jets, bombers, AWAC, all different kinds of military aircraft. They shot 7 ATACMS long-range American missiles with these cluster bombs in there. And there's a lot of video of the cluster bombs coming down. So the way that works is when the missile's in the air over the target, it kind of blows up or pops out these little cluster bombs. It could be like a dozen or something that come down and blow up when they come in contact with the earth. And there's videos of lots of these cluster bombs coming down over the airport. Now, Putin is apparently taking to lying like Iran and the Houthis and saying that Ukraine sent 7 of these and we took all 7 out. Yet 2 days before, Ukraine took out an S-400 anti-aircraft, anti-missile system that Russia had. So I don't think Russia's telling the truth. And looking at the videos, it appears that the Russians are lying, and they may have taken substantial damage to not only the airport, but the aircraft on the runways in the airport. There is such a thing as an armored hangar, where they build a regular, hangar, a big hangar, which could be, 3, 4, 500 yards long, and, could be 500 feet wide or something, and they put very heavy reinforced concrete in there to sustain bombs, but it's a curved thing, and they can't put pillars in there to support the roof because then the planes can't go in and out of the hangar. So I don't know how much of a warhead the thing could tolerate. Could it take 1,000-pound warhead? I don't know. I mean, they probably have concrete, 2 feet thick or 3 feet even, but I don't have any idea. I think there's a limit. I don't think it would take a 2,000-pound warhead, but maybe it would take 1 or 2 of them. I don't know. They might have rigged up some way to make it very strong. I don't know. But apparently that wasn't the case in Kursk, so. So once again, please don't use PayPal for a few days until I finish up with them. I don't know what kind of harassments I'm getting from them. They're notorious for this. There's underground aircraft shelters. Israel uses those. Those will take bombs, but the above ground ones, I don't know. They might just be good for taking little rockets fired off of jets and helicopters that have small warheads, up to 20 or 30 pounds or something like that, like an artillery or a mortar round or something like that. They could take that. They would take mortars, shoulder-fired rockets, probably artillery from tanks and mobile artillery, that kind of it. But a big aircraft bomb, like a 500-pounder directly targeting the hangar, I don't know how well the hangar would do. But it's better than nothing. So that's why you see in Saudi Arabia enter into the picture. And Saudi Arabia keeps saying normalization, but we want a Palestinian state. So the idea would be to dupe Israel into giving the West Bank back, and then we would get Jerusalem, would be the side deal. And Netanyahu is not to be trusted. Netanyahu is for Netanyahu, not so much for the people of Israel as he is for himself. There is some significant division amongst the civilians in Israel, but I think it's quite far away from a civil war. I don't see a civil war, let alone during wartime. I don't see it developing at all. I see protests. I see efforts to do a vote of no confidence against Netanyahu and stuff like that, but I don't see much else. The people of Israel, some of them view the ceasefire with Lebanon as Israel surrendering, and they may threaten Netanyahu with a vote of no confidence if he does it. But before we jump the gun on that, let's see what type of changes to the document Netanyahu's going to want, and then we can go from there. So, I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. Please pray for Chief. He still needs more prayer, the dog, for healing when he hurt his leg, and I still don't know how he hurt his leg. Pray for my wife, who was in the hospital, as you know, a few weeks ago. Pray for her continued healing. And pray for our peace, safety, protection, joy in our finances, and pray we don't have problems with our payment processors, and pray for better videos, and pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I hope you enjoyed this. And you might want to hit the thumbs up button if you did. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out. I thought I was out. Let's see. There we go.